Well, there have been extraordinary scenes in Berlin tonight as thousands of people gathered to hear Barack Obama deliver key foreign policy speech on his current European tour. The Democratic presidential hopeful laid out his vision for America's place in the new world order, saying he was speaking as a proud citizen of the world, of the world, of the world.
It is a big idea. It is a big idea. A new world order. It is a big idea. It is a big idea. A new world order.
Hello friends, I am the Anti-Terrorist. Thank you for all of your emails and your messages of support and for staying part of the conversation. You know, the subject of global warming has only been around for the past 15 years or so, and the first reports merely stated that the Antarctic ice caps were melting and the temperature around the world was rising. And now hardly a newscast goes by that the phrase global warming isn't prominently featured. The momentum of the diatribe has been increasing exponentially over the past 5 years. We're now being aggressively sold on the global warming programming. Discussions on the possibility of shutting down the majority of our power plants, resulting in all of us useless eaters paying a great deal more for our electricity, while being forced to use a lot less of it, are a key feature of the program. That's not very good news, is it? Politicians are a crafty bunch. They don't just start selling something without a purpose behind it. It's promoted by the tried and true method of,
"Now listen up. We need to protect you people from yourselves. You're burning up too much electricity and putting too much carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now as a result of that, you're causing global warming, and it's going to flood the world and it's going to be terrible. So we're going to save you from it. You're welcome."
Sound familiar? Bless them. They're trying to save us again. The trouble is, I get really nervous when politicians want to save me. It never works out well. And these good folks advocating a solution for global warming evidently don't believe that nature can determine what the temperature of the Earth should be. For my part, I don't know what the temperature ought to be. I haven't got a clue. I didn't arrive on planet Earth until the late 60s. But I've noticed that between now and then things have been going along pretty well. I've noticed from time to time some years are hotter than others, and some winters are warmer. The scientists spend a lot of time, effort and energy gallivanting around the world these days taking temperatures. And we're told that there's an average. I'd like to suggest that way back in history, no one was out measuring the temperature. As far as I know, back in the late 1700s, no one was measuring temperature. Or back in 800 AD, or 800 BC, or 3000 BC for that matter. I don't see any historical records where people were running around, wringing their hands in great despair and crying out to be saved from global warming. You know, the news channels have sent correspondents to the poles, producing special programs on how the ice is melting, which we can't deny because they presented us with satellite pictures showing us what the North Polar region looked like in 1960 and what it looks like today. Now, sure enough, there's a great difference in the amount of ice that was visible between the two pictures. But I want to point out to you that the difference in the amount of ice coverage in the North Pole in January is greater than it is in July. I don't know when these pictures were taken, and they're certainly not specific about when they were taken, so right away, my curiosity is piqued. About half the ice in the polar region melts in the summertime. Did you know that? If you look at the before pictures showing the coverage of the North Pole, they clearly show the entire Antarctic Ocean covered by ice, all the way down to the latitude of the Aleutian Islands. If you look at the after series of pictures, literally half of that coverage is gone, which is exactly what you would expect between January and July. Now, they never said, here's one set of pictures taken in January, and here's another set of pictures taken in January years later. And they haven't shown us a series of pictures taken every January between 1990 and 2009. A little suspicious, don't you think? Now, they're not lying to you, as such. They're just not telling you the whole truth, which is basically lying by omission. Now look, they're not here to edify you, to give you all of the facts so you can make an informed decision. Their job is to doctor the story, and to get you to come to the conclusion that man is responsible for global warming and the melting of the polar ice caps. An interesting side point here. You know why Greenland is called Greenland and not White Land? Give it a moment's thought. A chap called Leifur Eriksson found it around 980 AD, when we were in the middle of the last great warming trend. On the way to Newfoundland, the Vikings passed what we now know as the world's largest island, and it was green. There were trees, there was grass and vegetation. So they named it Greenland. Now the clue is in the name. It does what it says on the tin. I just thought I'd pass that on for your consideration. When a scientist comes along and says the world is warming, and another scientist says the world is cooling, and a third scientist comes along and says there's no change, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize they can't all be right. Now, don't get me wrong, I like science. I'm not opposed to science or scientists. I'm just opposed to scientists with an axe to grind, scientists that lie, and scientists with a personal opinion that they then call science. Oh, and scientists on a corporate or government payroll, both of which, if you stop to think about it, covers pretty much the whole bunch of them. Now, you may or may not know that 90% of all scientists who have ever drawn breath on planet Earth are alive right now. Now, that's simply because as the population grows, the number of scientists grow. All of these scientists have to have jobs. So who the hell is it that employs these people? And the answer is government. The next question is, what is government's agenda? And by the time a child hits 5th grade, he's brainwashed into believing that if he does anything but go to college, he'll be a complete failure in life. Now that's where all of us blue-collar chaps are. We're all failures in life. We didn't go to college, we didn't get a degree, and we didn't become a scientist. We're all out there driving trucks, fixing pipes and building houses, and doing all the worthwhile work. You know, friends, we could live out the rest of our lives without a climatologist, a paleontologist, or an ornithologist. But you just try living without a carpenter, an electrician, or a plumber for a while. You let me know how that works out for you. You'll begin to get tired of that outside toilet in no time at all, particularly in January in Northern England. So the child decides he doesn't want to be a failure in life and he goes to college. He gets his science degree and then he goes to work for a university, studying something for the government, which is probably being paid for by tax income, of course. He has high ideals and great ideas about making a valuable contribution to society. But once he's got his feet under the table and he's earning a nice crust examining frog sperm and whatnot, he's told in no uncertain terms, "Now you listen here. We have an agenda. We have a predetermined outcome that we're looking for. We're going to use science. We're going to use scientists. And we're going to use money. Lots of money. Now if you want funding next year and the year after, if you want to continue your chosen field year at the university, then you better come up with the right research paper. And if you don't, there's not going to be any money for your department next year. Get it? Got it? Good." These major government agencies, whether it's the FDA, the Department of Agriculture, or otherwise, they're all controlled, directly or indirectly, by the Committee of 300. And they all have agendas and policies. These policies have to be met by the employees that work in these situations. And any scientist or doctor who runs counter to the agenda will be shown the door. Government employees who become iconoclasts and whistleblowers get fired, or they get demoted, or promoted into the basement where they're not going to be heard or be a problem to the official policy. I challenge any scientist working for a government institution to rebut that statement. You can bet your life that when Big Pharma wants a predetermined outcome, they'll buy it. And the politicians in Washington and London will pay for whatever predetermined outcome they need to perpetuate their current agenda.